She left her wedding ring on the sink. Not by accident. It was centered, clean, turned sideways like a punctuation mark. Like the end of a sentence she never had the guts to say out loud. That was my first clue. The second? Her perfume, something sweet and citrusy, lingered on the hallway light switch. She hadn't worn perfume for me in 2 years. But tonight, the scent was thick enough to choke on. The third clue wasn't subtle. A text popped up on the iPad we shared. Leaving now. We're that red one again. Can't stop thinking about it. No name. Just a message. But I knew. I didn't throw anything. Didn't scream. Just sat on the floor beside the laundry basket, one sock in my hand, feeling like the last idiot on earth. I should have stopped it earlier. Months ago, maybe a year. When she started sleeping with earbuds in. When her laughter stopped sounding like music and more like a recording. When she forgot my birthday, but remembered her spin instructor's dog's name. She said she was going out with coworkers for drinks. I warned her. If you walk out that door to chase excitement, I won't be the same when you come back. She looked at me with pity. Not anger. Not guilt. Just the cold compassion you give a lost animal. It's just one night, Eli. I'll make it up to you. I promise. Then the door closed. And everything changed. For exactly 11 minutes, I sat still. I watched the wall like it was a theater screen. I imagined the clink of cocktail glasses, her fake laugh, his hand on her back. I imagined her telling him that her husband was too soft, too predictable. Maybe I am. I loved her with all the quiet parts of myself. The ones that don't shout or chase or try to impress. But none of that mattered. Because she wanted new. Something that sparkled. Something that made her feel 20 again. I picked up her ring. It was still warm. I didn't cry. Instead, I opened my laptop, deleted our shared calendar, and canceled the trip I secretly booked for our anniversary. Paris. Her dream city. She never knew. I packed a bag. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't be here when she returned from her one night. Because when she came back, expecting me to be waiting, she would find nothing. And then the real story would begin. By the time her Uber arrived at some dimly lit downtown bar, I was already on the highway heading west. I didn't have a destination in mind. I didn't even have a plan. I just knew I couldn't sit in that house, in that kitchen, in that marriage, and pretend like her betrayal was something I was supposed to absorb quietly. It's funny, in a tragic sort of way. The things you notice once you step away from the life you built. The way her laugh used to echo in the hallway. The half-drunk mug of peppermint tea she always forgot on the nightstand. The drawers she never closed all the way. I didn't take much with me. Just a bag with 3 shirts, my toothbrush, the emergency credit card I kept in my sock drawer, and a manila envelope. Inside it was a copy of our mortgage, a printout of her flirty texts I'd forwarded from the iPad, and a single, handwritten letter. Not to her. To myself. A promise I had written months ago, but never thought I'd need. It said, if she ever treats you like an option, walk away like you never were one. That night, I stayed in a dingy roadside motel called Pine View Inn, though there wasn't a pine tree in sight. The air conditioner rattled like it was powered by ghosts, and the sheets smelled like floor cleaner and cheap aftershave. But for the first time in a year, I slept. Not well, but I slept. Meanwhile, back home, well, I only know what happened from the ring cam and the voice messages she left. She got back around 2:12 a.m., heels clicking on the porch like nothing had happened. Her key fumbled in the lock. The moment the door creaked open, I heard her call my name. Eli. Silence. Babe. Louder silence. She walked into an empty living room. No shoes by the door. No coffee mug on the side table. No jacket on the coat rack. And, most importantly, no me. The ring cam caught her stepping back outside and looking at the driveway. Her face was still flushed from whatever fun she thought she had. But when she saw my car gone and realized the porch light was off and the house was cold, the smile faded. She called me 5 times that night. I didn't answer. I was still staring at the motel ceiling, watching the shadows shift, wondering what it would feel like to erase a person from your soul without becoming someone bitter. Her 6th call came at 6:07 a.m. That one I listened to. Eli. I didn't think you'd actually leave. Can we talk? It was just one night. You said you'd never give up on us. That part hurt the most. She was right. I used to say that all the time. That I was in it for the long haul. That I didn't believe in giving up. But she did. She gave up the moment she dressed up for a stranger and called that betrayal a reset button. That morning, I drove farther. No destination. Just the open road and a quiet car. I didn't feel heroic. I didn't feel like I was teaching her a lesson. I just felt broken. Like I'd been unplugged from my own life. By noon, her tone changed. Another voicemail. You're being dramatic. If you think disappearing is some kind of revenge, it's not going to work. I told you it was just one night. Just one night. Like that made it easier. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Because if I opened that door, just a crack, I knew I'd fall back into that role. The quiet husband. The forgiver. The man who absorbs the damage and keeps the peace. But that man was gone. And now she'd have to sit with what she broke. Alone. By the fourth day, I knew she had told her family. It started with the blocked number that left a voicemail saying, Eli, this is Dana, Tessa's sister. She's a mess. Please call me back. I hadn't spoken to Dana in nearly 3 years. We never got along. She always thought I was too passive, too mild-mannered to handle Tessa's free spirit. Well, Dana, turns out you were right. She wanted chaos, and I was order. And now the scales tipped so hard I'd vanished into my own shadow. I was staying in a rented studio above a bait shop in a lakeside town called Feather Ridge. No tourists. Just fog, loons, and the kind of silence that makes your bones itch. I had no plan to stay long, but something about being untraceable felt like oxygen. No neighbors. No history. No one asking if I'd tried talking it out. She, meanwhile, had clearly entered the panic phase. The voicemails switched from confident to desperate. The tone of someone realizing the game ended 2 turns ago, but still trying to roll the dice. Eli, I'm sorry. You don't understand. It was dinner. Just dinner. We barely touched. He was boring. It meant nothing. So now she decides to downgrade it to meaningless. Where was this energy when she was curling her hair and stepping over my heart on the way to her reset? I started keeping a journal. Not because I'm poetic, but because I needed a place to vomit thoughts that wouldn't rot inside me. Each entry had one rule: don't mention her name. She had enough of my words over the years. This time, she could starve for them. And yet, I still couldn't stop replaying the scene in my head. Her slipping her ring off like it was a napkin. Her telling me she'd make it up to me. That line kept echoing. I wondered, what did make it up to me look like in her mind? A breakfast in bed? A guilt-ridden weekend getaway? Or just more intimacy while she pretended to forget the way his hand felt on her waist? I wouldn't know, because I changed my number. That night, after a full week of silence, I figured it was time to go one step further. I logged into our shared accounts. Netflix, Google Photos, the calendar we used for everything from dentist appointments to anniversaries. I removed myself from all of them, not out of spite, not to make a point, but because those digital footprints made me feel like a ghost in my own life. Then came the message that hit me differently. She must have borrowed her friend's phone, Laura, probably. It was a text, not a voicemail. The bed feels wrong without you. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I get it now. Please, just tell me what I have to do to fix this. And for one brief, microscopic second, I almost replied. Almost. But then I remembered sitting alone in that motel, watching the red digits of the alarm clock blink toward 3 a.m. while she laughed in someone else's passenger seat. I remembered the scent of her perfume and the finality of the silence when she shut that door. No, this wasn't a movie. This wasn't a fight with a kiss at the end. This was a woman who asked for space to betray me and expected me to wait on the welcome mat like an obedient pet. So instead of replying, I sent something else. I mailed her a package. Inside was a small wooden box. No note. No instructions. Just her wedding ring, cleaned, polished, and resting in the center on a black velvet cushion. That was it. I tracked it. Delivered. Signed by her. 2:47 p.m. She never messaged after that. Not that day. Not the day after. And just like that, the silence shifted. Because now, she finally understood. When I mailed her that ring, I didn't think it would end things. Not really. I thought she'd explode. Or beg. Or rage. But what I didn't expect, what I never prepared for, was complete silence. That's when it got weird. See, people think the worst part of betrayal is the moment it happens. But that's not true. The worst part is the after. The stillness. The days where you walk past a mirror and don't even recognize the shape of your own sadness. 3 more days passed. Not a text. Not a call. Nothing from Tessa. And then, suddenly, everyone else started calling. It was like a coordinated ambush from all the people who hadn't spoken to me in years. Her mother left a rambling voicemail about loyalty and forgiveness and how no marriage survives without mess. Her coworker Jason, who I always suspected secretly liked her, sent me an email, of all things, saying, "You're being childish, Eli. She made a mistake. Don't torch a whole life over one night." One night. They all kept saying that. As if the number of hours makes a difference. As if pain has a time limit. What none of them seemed to get was that the moment she chose someone else, even for just one dinner, one drink, one kiss she won't admit to, that moment fractured something I can't glue back together. Not because I didn't love her, but because I did. I didn't respond to anyone, but I did start documenting everything. Not because I was planning a court case or a social media expose or anything messy like that, but because I needed receipts for myself. I needed to know that I wasn't insane, that I hadn't imagined the years of giving, forgiving, and being slowly chipped away like bark off a dying tree. I started with our bank statements. Turns out, the night she went on her just one date, she spent over $300. Rooftop bar, wine, seafood, and, for some reason, a luxury hotel room in the city that cost more than our monthly internet bill. Funny how just dinner doesn't usually end in pillow mints and valet parking. I didn't confront her. Instead, I made a private folder. Screenshots, statements, photos, notes. And then, just to see if I could stomach it, I logged into our smart home system and pulled up the front door footage from that night. I hadn't watched it since. I thought I was done torturing myself. But I had to know. There it was. She walked out that night with a smile. Not nervous. Not conflicted. Just alive. Her eyes sparkled. She twirled her keys. She paused to check her lipstick in the reflection of our car window. She wasn't hesitating. She was glowing. And that glow, that crushed me more than anything. Because that meant she hadn't been torn between right and wrong. She didn't pace the hallway wondering if I was enough. She knew what she was doing, and she was eager. So when people say it was just a lapse, just a one-time thing, I want to scream. Because her betrayal wasn't the night itself. It was the weeks before, the subtle exits, the way she built up the courage to break something and convinced herself it wasn't real damage. She wanted to feel new. So I gave her exactly that. New silence. New distance. A new version of me. One who no longer made excuses for the woman who stopped seeing me as a man and started seeing me as routine. And then, just as I was settling into the numb comfort of my absence, she reappeared. Not in person. She sent me an email. A full page. Titled, "If You Still Care." She outlined how she missed us, how she wasn't thinking clearly, how the date didn't go how I expected, and that she had been afraid to tell me she cried on the drive home. She wrote, and I quote, "I understand if you hate me, but I'd rather have you hate me than vanish. You disappeared so fast, I felt like I lost oxygen." That line stuck with me, not because it was poetic, but because it was self-centered. She was worried about her oxygen after choking me for years. She ended it with, "If you can find it in your heart to come home, I'll be here. I haven't touched the bed. Your side still smells like you." She thought that was romantic. But what she didn't know was that I had already made a quiet visit back, 2 nights before, while she was at work, while the house was empty, and what I left behind would make her wish she never asked for a second chance. She wanted me to come home. She said she missed us. But what she really missed was the version of me who accepted less, who lived on breadcrumbs and called it devotion. The Eli who folded his anger neatly and tucked it behind his smile. That man was gone. And 2 nights before she sent that email, the one titled, "If You Still Care," I did go back. Quietly. I had driven 4 hours straight, waited in a gas station parking lot until the motion sensor on the front porch camera confirmed she was gone. She still had a routine. Leave for work by 7:35 a.m., gone till after 6. I knew the windows that stuck, the door hinges that creaked. I moved through the house like a ghost with a blueprint. Nothing had changed. Not really. My sneakers were still by the door. The hoodie she always stole still hung on the back of the dining chair. And on the fridge, our anniversary photo, sun-faded, still pinned up with a magnet shaped like a taco. I stood in that kitchen for almost 20 minutes, doing nothing. Not breathing. Just listening to the silence. Then I got to work. I didn't smash anything. I didn't key her car or pour bleach on her clothes. That kind of revenge fades. It's loud and satisfying for a second, and then it's gone. What I did was quieter. Smarter. I left behind a letter. Sealed. No name. No return address. Just a blank white envelope propped on her pillow like a mint at a hotel. Inside, the note read, "You buried us the moment you chose curiosity over commitment. This house is your coffin now. Sleep well." Harsh. Maybe. But not nearly as cruel as the smile she wore when she left for that date. I also replaced one other thing. Something subtle. I swapped out the framed photo of us at the beach, her favorite, from the hallway table, and slid in a different photo. It was the same frame. But the picture was of just me, sitting alone on that same beach, taken by a timer, the chair next to me empty. The symbolism? Obvious. Painful. Intentional. But the final detail, that one was for me. I took the batteries out of the remote for the bedroom TV. I removed just one shoelace from each of her gym shoes. I left the bathroom scale unplugged. I loosened the top of the olive oil in the kitchen. Minuscule things. Petty, even. But every single one of them would make her wonder. Did I do that? Was that like that before? Am I losing my mind? She wanted a reset. A fresh spark. So I gave her confusion. Doubt. Silence wrapped in static. Because she made me question every memory we had. Every laugh. Every, "I love you." So now, she'd live with those questions too. And it worked. Because when I checked the front cam footage later that night, I saw her walk into the house and freeze. She noticed the envelope instantly. She didn't even take off her heels. She just stood there in the hallway, staring at that tiny, weightless thing that carried the full burden of her guilt. She opened it slowly. Her lips moved as she read it. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat down on the edge of the bed, hunched over, holding her head in both hands. And she stayed there. For a long time. I watched that footage 5 times. Not because I enjoyed it. Not because it made me feel powerful. But because I needed to believe that for once, just once, she finally understood what she did. The next day, she replied to my email. Short. No subject line. No greeting. Just this. "You're not the only one who can disappear." I didn't answer. Because unlike her, I knew how to vanish without pretending it was a game. She wanted space. I gave her a black hole. But little did I know, her version of disappearing was just beginning. And what she did next, no one saw coming. Not even me. At first, I thought her last message was just drama. "You're not the only one who can disappear." I assumed it was another guilt tactic. Something she scribbled at 2 a.m. while sipping white wine in her bathrobe, playing the role of the wounded wife who wanted to be chased. I didn't respond. I didn't even reread it. But then, she actually vanished. No calls. No voicemails. No new emails. Her social media? Wiped. Not deactivated, deleted. Her job? Left it. I called the main line from a burner number just to test it. The receptionist said Tessa no longer works here. Our mutual friends? None of them had seen her. It was like she hit a switch and dissolved. And for the first time since I walked out of our home, I started feeling the panic. Not because I missed her. Not because I wanted her back. But because I suddenly realized I had no idea what she was capable of. I'd spent 12 years thinking I knew her. That I could predict her. That she was just reckless enough to hurt me, but not enough to self-destruct. But what if that wasn't true? What if she'd spiraled harder than I thought? That night, I went back through every message, every photo, every clip from the Ring cam, watching with new eyes. Not the eyes of a man betrayed, but of a man trying to figure out if he pushed someone off an emotional cliff without knowing it. There was no sign of a breakdown. She was cold, collected, calculated, even. So what the hell was she doing now? 3 days into her complete silence, I got an envelope. No name. No return address. Just my name, written in black ink, no handwriting I recognized. Inside was a USB stick and a short note that simply said, "You wanted truth. Here it is." Now, a smart person probably wouldn't plug in a mystery USB. But I'm not smart. I'm a guy sitting in a cabin by a lake, half living, half falling apart. So I opened it. One folder. One video file. No title. Just a timestamp. I clicked play. At first, I thought it was just another one of our old security clips. Front porch angle, timestamped, low resolution. But then I noticed the date. It was from 3 weeks before she ever asked for her night off. And that's when my blood ran cold. Because there she was, Tessa, standing outside our house at 1:13 in the morning. Alone. In her robe. No keys, no purse. Just standing there. Breathing hard. She looked around, like she was being followed, then finally pulled out her phone. She dialed. I couldn't hear audio, but her mouth formed the words. It's done. She looked sick. Her legs were shaking. She wiped her mouth like she was trying not to throw up. Who was she calling? What was done? This wasn't her after the date. This was before it. Weeks before. I checked the rest of the USB. Empty. No metadata. No answers. Suddenly, I wasn't thinking about revenge anymore. I was thinking about what she planned. Because this wasn't some impulsive moment of weakness. She had orchestrated something. And whatever it was, I wasn't part of it. I texted her. For the first time in weeks. Where are you? No reply. I sent another. What did you mean by it's done? Still nothing. At midnight, I got a reply from a different number. Check your bank account. My heart dropped. I logged in immediately. Our joint account was empty. Not drained. Closed. A cold sweat broke out across my back. She hadn't disappeared because she gave up. She disappeared because she was 5 moves ahead of me the entire time. I thought I was the one who vanished. But it turns out, I was the one being erased. And by the time I figured that out, it was already too late. I always thought betrayal was something that happened in a moment. Like a lightning strike. Sudden. Violent. Quick. But what she did, what Tessa did, it was slow, precise, like watching termites eat through the foundation of a house you still think is safe. The closed bank account was only the beginning. The more I looked, the more I realized she hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. She had been engineering my exit long before I even noticed. I started with our financials. Months ago, she convinced me to switch our bill payments from my personal account to the joint one. Makes things cleaner, she said. Easier to track. I agreed because, why wouldn't I? We were a team, right? Wrong. Over the last 3 months, she'd slowly moved nearly all auto-pay services, utilities, insurance, subscriptions, under her name. I didn't even notice. I was busy being the understanding husband, while she prepared the legal equivalent of an execution. But that wasn't the part that broke me. The part that shattered whatever pride I had left was what I found in the cloud. I had access to one old shared Google Drive folder from when we used to plan our road trips. Out of habit or carelessness, she never removed my access. Inside was something called Plan B, hidden in a nested folder labeled Home Project. It wasn't a budget spreadsheet or a renovation outline. It was a timeline. Tessa's timeline. A full 3-month strategy, mapped out like a military operation. Labeled weeks, bullet points, tasks, password resets, legal consults, bank transfers, even an appointment with a therapist I never knew about, titled Framing Narrative, Emotional Foundation for Exit. She was preparing to leave me before she cheated. Or maybe cheating was never the point at all. Maybe the date was just part of the plan. A way to provoke me, to destabilize me, to justify the things she'd already decided to do. And here's where it gets worse. There was a document titled, If He Finds Out Early. In it, a literal script. What to say, how to twist it, how to frame my disappearance as abandonment. A note that read, if Eli leaves before I officially separate, shift narrative to emotional volatility. Leverage his silence. She didn't just prepare for the breakup. She prepared for my reaction. Every quiet move I made. She was 5 steps ahead. While I was mourning our memories, she was crafting her storyline. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I sat there in the dim light of the cabin, hands shaking, rereading that document over and over again until the words blurred. Then I got a phone call. Blocked number. I picked up. No voice. Just breathing. Then a whisper. Why did you go looking? Click. My blood froze. Was it her? Someone she knew? A burner phone? I tried calling back. No answer. Then my phone lit up with a notification. New login attempt on your Apple ID. Location, Lafayette, Indiana. My hometown. She was poking at my accounts now. So this wasn't over. Not even close. She had started a war in silence, dressed it as heartbreak, and masked it as a cry for space. But now she was openly hunting for pieces of me to destroy. And suddenly I realized. She wasn't running away. She was laying a trap. She wanted me to chase her. She wanted me to act out, to make the first mistake, to prove her narrative. But I wouldn't give her that. No. If she wanted a story, I'd give her one. But this time, it would be mine. I didn't sleep the night I found her Plan B. How could I? I kept seeing the document in my mind, her neat little timeline of betrayal, her contingency scripts, her planned exit from the life we built together like it was some kind of tech rollout. She didn't just want to leave me. She wanted to control how I reacted. She wanted to choreograph the narrative so precisely that even if I caught her, she'd still win. But the one thing she didn't account for? I had nothing left to lose. So I did what she never expected. I didn't fight her. I didn't send angry texts or threaten lawyers. I didn't even confront her about the plan. Instead, I built my own. Quiet, efficient, untraceable. I hired a lawyer. A good one. A silent one. She specialized in high conflict, high deception separations. I showed her the documents I found, the evidence, the timeline, the messages. She read through them like she was scanning an old math textbook. Calm, detached. Then she said, "We'll bury her in paperwork before she knows what hit her." We filed for divorce in a different state, mine now, since I'd established residency. No warnings. No heads up. The papers were delivered to Tessa on a Monday morning, 8:02 a.m., according to the timestamp, right as she was getting into her car. Her reaction? I'll never know. And honestly, that's the point. She wanted me to drown in the grief. I walked out of the river instead. In the months that followed, I rebuilt everything. Slowly, painfully, but with clarity I didn't know I had in me. I opened a new account, got a new apartment, got a new job offer, teaching art full-time at a small college upstate. More freedom, better pay, fewer hallway lights flickering over memories I no longer needed. And then, something strange happened. Tessa emailed me. One line. "I underestimated you." No apology. No request. Just that. I didn't reply. But for the first time, it didn't make my stomach twist. Because I had changed. The silence that used to hurt now felt like peace. The empty bed. No longer a reminder. Just a space waiting for something better. One evening, I stood by the lake near my cabin. It was colder now. Leaves falling. Crisp air. I watched the ripples and thought about how much time I'd wasted wondering if I wasn't enough. But the truth is, I was never the one lacking. I was just loving someone who didn't value the quiet kind of love. The steady, loyal kind. The kind that shows up, day after day, without grand gestures or games. And if she couldn't see that, then her blindness was never my burden to carry. The world didn't end. It opened. A new city. A new version of me. One not waiting by a door that would never open with love again. Now, I open doors myself. I choose who comes through. And someday, if the right person walks in, someone who doesn't need something new to appreciate something real, I'll be ready. But until then, I'm finally enough for myself. And that is more than I ever thought I'd have again.